Welcome. This channel brings you daily motivation and uplifting sermons. Subscribe now. And together let's reach 1,000 subscribers while building a positive, inspiring community. Ladies and gentlemen, let me start by saying this. Every single one of us has a dream. That fire in your chest that keeps you awake at night. That vision you can't shake. No matter how much life tries to beat it out of you, that's the dream I'm talking about. Mine came to me as a boy, growing up in Mount Vernon. I didn't know what it meant at the time, but I could see it, plain as day. I would stand on a stage, larger than any stage I'd ever seen, and speak to people from all walks of life. In this dream, I wasn't just acting or reciting lines. I was speaking truth. People were looking up at me not because I was better than them, but because I had something they needed. A word of encouragement. A reminder of their own greatness. That dream never left me. It began as a whisper, a tiny voice that said, "You can do more. You can be more." I remember watching my mother work, day in and day out, always pushing forward, never complaining. She didn't have to tell me to dream big, she showed me. She taught me that dignity doesn't come from what you have, but from what you do with what you have. And that's the lesson I carried with me. As I grew older, the dream became clearer. I started to see myself not just as a boy from Mount Vernon, but as someone who could inspire. I didn't know exactly how it would happen, but I felt it deep in my bones. I was meant to do something that mattered, something that lasted. You see, dreams don't always come with instructions. They don't tell you how you're going to get there. All you know is the destination, and you have to figure out the rest along the way. But here's the thing about dreams. They don't come with guarantees. The world isn't going to line up and say, "Go right ahead, your dreams waiting for you." No, the world is going to push back. It's going to test your faith. And it's going to ask you the same question over and over. How bad do you want it? I'll tell you something I learned early on. If you're willing to put in the work, if you're willing to bet on yourself when no one else will, that's when you start to answer that question. That's when you plant your flag in the ground and say, "I will win." Back then, I didn't know where the road would take me. I didn't know the challenges ahead or the sacrifices I'd have to make. All I had was the dream and the determination to chase it. But you know what? That's all you need to start. Dreams are powerful, but they're only as strong as your willingness to work for them. And from that very first moment, I knew one thing for certain. I wasn't going to wait for permission. I wasn't going to wait for someone to hand me a golden ticket. I was going to build my own stage, brick by brick, step by step. Every dream begins with a choice. A choice to believe, to take a risk, to go after something that seems impossible. And in that choice, in that moment, you're not just imagining the future, you're claiming it. You're saying, "This is mine. I will go after it, no matter what it takes." That's how it all begins, my friends. That's how you start the journey. The dream may be a whisper now, but if you listen closely, it will guide you. You just have to have the courage to say it out loud, to declare it to the world and to yourself. I will win. Winning doesn't happen overnight, no matter how hard we hope. No matter how clearly we see the dream, there will always be a gap between where we are and where we want to be. That gap is filled with struggle. You see, struggle is what makes the victory real. It's what separates those who say they want it from those who truly do. My own journey was no exception. I remember those early days filled with rejection, doubt, and questions I didn't have answers to. I'd put on my best suit, rehearse every line 100 times, and walk into audition after audition, and still, I'd hear those words, "Thanks, but no thanks." I'd head home at the end of the day, shoulders heavy, wondering if I had what it took. I'll be honest with you, there were moments I felt small. Moments I thought, maybe they're right. Maybe I'm not cut out for this. But there was something stronger than those doubts. Something louder than the rejections. It was the voice of the dream itself, the one that refused to let me quit. That voice kept telling me, keep going, keep pushing, keep believing. It wasn't just about talent. It was about grit, about showing up even when you don't feel like it, about finding strength when you're running on empty. And that's the lesson the struggle teaches you. Who you really are. The world will throw obstacles in your path. Some of them will seem insurmountable. But it's not the size of the obstacle that matters, it's the size of your determination. When you're knocked down, do you stay down or do you rise? Because every time you rise, you get stronger. Every no you hear brings you one step closer to a yes. Every door that closes forces you to find another way in. There's something else I learned in the struggle. Failure isn't final. Failure isn't the opposite of success, it's part of it. I can't tell you how many times I failed before I succeeded. But those failures weren't wasted. They taught me how to adapt, how to improve, how to persist. They stripped away my excuses and left me with a choice: either walk away from the dream or stand and fight for it. I chose to fight. In those moments of struggle, I discovered the power of belief. Not belief in easy wins or shortcuts, but belief in myself. Belief that, no matter how many times I stumbled, I could get back up. I started to see every setback as a lesson. I began to understand that struggle wasn't a punishment, it was preparation. The challenges were shaping me, honing me, preparing me for the day when my opportunity would come. And I knew that when it did, I'd be ready. The struggle is where you learn what you're made of. It's where you develop the resilience to keep going, the patience to keep trying, and the courage to keep believing. It's where you discover that success isn't about luck, it's about perseverance. It's about waking up every day, looking in the mirror, and saying, I will win. Even when you don't feel like it. Even when it seems impossible. Because the only way to lose is to quit. And quitting, that's not in the vocabulary of a winner. Yes, the struggle is hard. It will test you. It will push you to your limits. But that's where the transformation happens. That's where the dream becomes reality. When you refuse to give up, when you fight through the struggle, when you keep moving forward despite the odds, then you're not just dreaming anymore. You're becoming. You're stepping into the version of yourself who can handle the victory, who's earned the win. And that's when you know the struggle was worth it. There comes a moment in every journey when the years of sacrifice struggle, and perseverance finally start to pay off for me. That moment didn't arrive in a thunderclap of applause or a sudden rush of success. No, my breakthrough was more like a sunrise, gradual, steady, inevitable. After years of working every odd job I could find, of taking auditions that went nowhere, of pouring myself into the craft without seeing much in return, the tide began to turn. It wasn't magic. It wasn't luck. It was the result of all the work I had put in, all the times I had heard no and kept going anyway, all the nights I had stayed up rehearsing a monologue, perfecting a scene, or studying performances by the greats to learn how they told stories that mattered. I had built a foundation, brick by brick, and though I couldn't see the structure clearly at first, I was now standing in it. That was my breakthrough, the realization that every single step along the way had been preparing me for this moment. And then, there it was, my first big role. A role that asked more of me than I had ever been asked before. I knew the stakes were high. I knew I had to bring my best, no, more than my best. All those years of struggle had prepared me for this. I walked onto that set with the weight of every rejection, every long shift waiting tables, every ounce of self-doubt that had ever tried to hold me back. But something was different now. I wasn't just another actor looking for a break. I was someone who had fought, fallen, gotten back up, and refused to quit. I wasn't a rookie anymore. I was ready. What I learned during that breakthrough role was that preparation and opportunity must meet. Too often, people think breakthroughs happen because you're in the right place at the right time. But that's only half the story. You also have to be the right person. And becoming that person takes time, effort, and faith. By the time that opportunity comes knocking, you have to be ready to answer. You have to be ready to deliver. And here's another thing about breakthroughs. They're not just about you. Sure, they may start with a personal victory, but true breakthroughs create a ripple effect. After that role, I didn't just feel relief, I felt responsibility. I realized that this wasn't just a win for me. It was a chance to open the door wider for others, to prove that perseverance matters, to show that even if you start with nothing, even if you stumble 1,000 times, you can still rise. You can still achieve greatness. Breaking through isn't the end of the journey. It's the beginning of something even bigger. It's the moment when the dream starts to feel real, not just as a possibility, but as a reality. And when you've made it through the struggle, when you've climbed that mountain and seen the view from the top, you understand that the breakthrough wasn't just about reaching your goal. It was about becoming the person you were meant to be. It was about standing there, looking back at the road you traveled, and saying with conviction, I will win, and knowing, without a doubt, that you already have. Winning isn't just about the moment you stand on top of the mountain. It's about what you do when you get there. It's about the footprints you leave for others to follow, the lives you change by showing them it's possible, the legacy you build through your actions. And what I've learned through all the ups and downs is this: true success isn't measured by what you've accomplished. It's measured by what you give back. When I look back on my journey, I'm not just proud of the roles I've played or the awards I've received. I'm proud of the people I've inspired. I'm proud of the younger actors who have come to me asking for guidance and walked away believing they, too, could achieve greatness. I'm proud of the stories I've helped tell, stories that mattered, that touched people's hearts, that reminded them of their own strength. A legacy isn't built in a single moment. It's built in the day-to-day choices you make. It's built when you choose to lift someone else up, to give a word of encouragement, to share what you've learned, so that someone else doesn't have to make the same mistakes. It's built when you recognize that winning doesn't mean much if you're the only one who crosses the finish line. True winners don't just take the prize. They reach back and help others cross the line with them. I think back to my parents, who showed me what hard work and integrity look like. They might not have stood on stages or won accolades, but their legacy lives on in me. They taught me that success isn't about being better than someone else. It's about being the best version of yourself and helping others do the same. And that's the standard I hold myself to every single day. So when I stand in front of a crowd, when I accept an award, when I share my story, I'm not just thinking about my own journey. I'm thinking about the people in that audience who are where I once wasn't sure, struggling, maybe even ready to give up. I want them to know that their dreams are valid, that their struggles matter, that if they stay true to themselves, if they keep moving forward, they can and will achieve greatness. But the legacy doesn't stop there. It's not just about motivating people. It's about leaving something lasting behind. For me, that means working with young people, creating opportunities where there were none, funding programs that inspire creativity, and supporting institutions that nurture the next generation of dreamers. It means investing in the future, because that's what winners do. They don't just win for themselves, they win for the world. And that's the message I want to leave with you. Winning is not about personal glory. It's about impact. It's about the lives you touch, the paths you clear, the barriers you break. It's about showing the world not just that you can achieve something great, but that greatness is possible for anyone willing to believe, to work, and to keep going when it feels impossible. When it's all said and done, my goal isn't just to be remembered as someone who reached the top. My goal is to be remembered as someone who helped others reach theirs. Someone who said, "You can do this too. You've got this." Someone who made a difference, not just on stage or on screen, but in people's lives. That, to me, is the real prize. That is what winning truly means. And that is the legacy I strive to leave behind.